He didn't look like a footballer. No impressive dribbles. No absurd speed. No technique that makes the stadium rise. In fact, if you watched for a few minutes, you might have thought he shouldn't even be there. But there was a problem. He simply wouldn't stop scoring goals. Johan Cruyff, one of the greatest players and thinkers in football history, once said something brutal about Filippo Inzaghi. Something that could have destroyed a lesser player's career. He can't play football at all, Cruyff said. Let that sink in. One of the game's geniuses looked at Inzaghi and saw nothing. No technique. No elegance. No style. And in a way, Cruyff was right. If you watched Inzaghi for 90 minutes, you would see a player who seemed lost. Who didn't participate in build-up. Who didn't create plays. Who looked clumsy, awkward, almost out of place. But here's the thing about Inzaghi that Cruyff and many others failed to understand. Football isn't about looking good. It's about being decisive. And Filippo Inzaghi was one of the most decisive players the game has ever seen. Filippo Inzaghi was never the type of player who enchanted. Born in Piacenza, Italy on August 9, 1973, he started his career in the lower divisions. Loans to Lecce and Verona. A disappointing spell at Parma, where he scored only 2 goals in 15 appearances. Then came Atlanta, the 1996-97 season. Inzaghi scored 24 goals in 33 Serie A matches, winning the Capocannoniere as the league's top scorer. At 23, he had arrived. Juventus came calling. He won a Scudetto, scored 57 goals in 120 league appearances, and formed a formidable partnership with Alessandro Del Piero. But even then, the doubts never stopped. Because Inzaghi didn't play like other strikers. While others would dominate the ball, he would disappear. While others would create chances, he would wait. He seemed limited. Strange movements. Ungraceful finishes. Always on the edge of offside. Sir Alex Ferguson once famously said that Inzaghi was born offside. It was meant as a critique. A suggestion that his entire game was built on a technicality. But Inzaghi, years later, responded with characteristic clarity. Yes, I know about that comment. Fortunately, I was born onside. If not, I wouldn't have scored most of my goals. Joking aside, playing on the offside line was my trademark. Something I wanted to exploit. I tried to hide on the offside line and attack from there. It's not easy to teach. It has to come naturally. This was Inzaghi's genius. A genius that didn't look like genius. Because while the game happened, Inzaghi disappeared. He didn't participate in build-up. Didn't create plays. Didn't draw attention. He stayed there, between the defenders, almost invisible. And it made it seem like he was out of the game. But in reality, he was waiting. Waiting for the error. Waiting for the space. Waiting for the moment. When he joined AC Milan in 2001 for €41 million, the doubts followed. A player who can't play football at a club like Milan? It didn't make sense. But Milan saw something others missed. They saw a player who didn't need to touch the ball many times. Who didn't need to create plays. Who only needed one chance. One movement. 1 second of inattention. One minimal space. And suddenly, the ball was in the net. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't plastic. But it was inevitable. Inzaghi's career at Milan was marked by moments of pure, predatory instinct. The 2002-2003 season was perhaps his best in a Milan shirt. He scored 17 goals in Serie A and, crucially, 12 goals in the Champions League, including qualification matches. Milan won the trophy that season, defeating Juventus on penalties in the final. But the moment that defined Inzaghi for a generation came 4 years later. May 23, 2007. Athens. Champions League final. Milan versus Liverpool. 2 years earlier, Milan had been on the wrong end of the miracle of Istanbul, blowing a 3-0 lead to lose on penalties. Inzaghi hadn't even been on the bench for that final. He wasn't registered for the competition. Now, at 33, he had his redemption. In the 45th minute, he deflected a free kick past Pepe Reina. Milan led 1-0. In the 82nd minute, he received a pass from Kaká, rounded the goalkeeper, and slid the ball into the empty net. 2-0, game over. Milan had their 7th European Cup. Inzaghi had 2 goals in a Champions League final. But more than that, he had proven something fundamental, that a player who can't play football could be the difference in the biggest game in the world. After the match, he had completed something no other player in history had ever done. He had scored in every European club competition, the Champions League, the UEFA Cup, now Europa League, the Cup Winners' Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Intertoto Cup. A grand slam. The only player ever to achieve it. But there was one more stage, the biggest stage of all, the 2006 World Cup in Germany. Italy's squad was stacked with talent: Cannavaro, Nesta, Pirlo, Totti, Toni, Del Piero. Inzaghi was there, but not as a starter. At 32, his role was that of an option, a weapon off the bench. In the group stage against the Czech Republic, with Italy leading 1-0, Inzaghi came on. In the 87th minute, he received the ball near midfield. He ran, past one defender, past another. The goalkeeper came out. Inzaghi rounded him and rolled the ball into the empty net. It was his first and only World Cup goal, but was classic Inzaghi. A moment of pure predatory instinct disguised as simplicity. Italy would go on to win the World Cup, defeating France in the final. Inzaghi was a world champion. For a player who had been told he couldn't play football, lifting the World Cup was the ultimate answer. Across his career, Inzaghi's numbers tell a story of sustained, elite-level production. For the Italian national team, 57 caps, 25 goals. A goal-scoring rate that places him among Italy's most efficient strikers. In Serie A, 468 appearances, 198 goals. Across all competitions for Milan, 300 appearances, 126 goals. Total professional career, 313 goals in 680 appearances. But the numbers that matter most are the ones that came in decisive moments. The Champions League final goals. The World Cup goal. The hat-tricks that broke open tight matches. The goals that won trophies. Inzaghi wasn't the top scorer in any of the seasons he won major trophies. He didn't need to be. He just needed to score when it mattered. Here's what made Inzaghi different from almost every other striker in football history. He understood that the game isn't about dominance. It's about moments. While other strikers tried to impose themselves on the game, Inzaghi let the game come to him. He studied defenders. He understood their habits. He knew exactly when they would switch off, when they would lose concentration, when they would make the one mistake he needed. His relationship with the offside rule was almost mystical. He lived on the edge of it, constantly pushing the limits, constantly forcing referees to make decisions. You can't teach it, he said. It has to come naturally. And it did, because Inzaghi saw the game differently. He didn't see it as a sequence of events. He saw it as a series of opportunities. And he only needed one. When asked about the criticism he received throughout his career, from Cruyff, from Ferguson, from countless others, Inzaghi was philosophical. I've received a lot of praise and also criticism throughout my career. I'm used to all of it and never let it bother me too much. If you don't score in big games, someone will complain that you're not a decisive striker. If your technique isn't perfect, people will say you lack skill. I've scored over 300 professional goals, and I know what I can provide. I'm happy with what I've achieved in football. After retiring in 2012, Inzaghi transitioned into coaching. The journey wasn't always smooth. He had difficult spells at Milan, Bologna, and other clubs. But in 2024-25, he delivered something special. Leading Pisa to their first Serie A promotion in 34 years, he proved that the tactical intelligence that made him a great striker could also make him a great coach. Playing in a 3-4-2-1 formation, his Pisa side was built on the principles he understood as a player: direct play, exploiting space, intelligent movement. By March 2026, Inzaghi had moved on to Palermo, where he continues his coaching career. And somewhere in Italy, his younger brother Simone, the coach of Inter Milan, is building his own legacy. The Inzaghi brothers, both world-class strikers in their day, now competing as coaches in Serie A. It's a story that began with a boy from Piacenza who was told he couldn't play football. Football has always valued talent, technique, aesthetics, spectacle. But sometimes, the game isn't about looking good. It's about being decisive. And Filippo Inzaghi proved that like few others. He was never the fastest, never the strongest, never the most skilled. But when the moment came, when the chance appeared, when the game hung in the balance, he was there. He scored 313 professional goals. He won World Cups, Champions Leagues, league titles. He scored in every European competition possible. He did it all while being told he couldn't play football. Because Inzaghi understood something that many football people forget. It doesn't matter how you play. It matters what you do when the only chance appears. Filippo Inzaghi was never a player for the highlight reels. His goals won't appear in compilations of the most beautiful moments in football history. But when you think about players who made the difference when it mattered most, Inzaghi's name belongs with the very best. A World Cup winner, A two-time Champions League winner, the only player to score in every European competition, and all while being told he couldn't play football. If you enjoy deep football analysis that goes beyond the obvious, that looks at what makes players decisive, not just beautiful, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next deep dive. And now, the question for the comments. Could a player like Filippo Inzaghi succeed in modern football? Or has the game changed too much for the pure poacher to exist anymore? I'll read you in the comments. Because football isn't just about how you play. It's about what you do when everything is on the line. And Inzaghi understood that better than almost anyone. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.